All right, you guys, it's Mr. James, and I am back with another video to help you continue your learning about decimals. On today's learning target, I can compare and order decimals. So let's get started. We're going to learn two ways to compare and order decimals. One is we're going to line the decimals up, add zeros to the missing place value, and compare by looking at the place values. The second way is we're going to use our inequality symbols to compare. So we're really going to look at place value by place value from the left to the right. First way, example. It says to arrange the decimals from least to greatest. So the first thing we are going to do is line our decimal values up. So the first number we have is 0 and 58 hundredths. Then we have 1 and 120 thousandths. Then we have 0 and 6 tenths. And then we have 0 and 3 hundredths. Those are our four numbers that we will compare. The second step that we are going to do is, well, we are going to add zeros in the missing place value so each number have the same decimal digit amount. So in the first number, we're going to add a 0 behind the 8. The second number does not need a 0. On the third number, we'll add 2 zeros. And on the last number, we'll add 1 0. We do this just to see, get a comparison of the number as a whole. And it's easier to actually see which numbers are smaller versus bigger when you do it this way. So now we're going to compare the numbers from least to greatest, from the smallest amount to the biggest amount. So I always start in the ones place. That's the first digit that we do have. And I already see, well, 1 is the biggest number that I have on here. So it can't go first. So I'm going to leave that alone. Now, since all of these have a 0 in the 1 spot, the next place is to go to the right of the decimal in the 10th spot. So the first number has a 5, the second has a 1, and this one has a 0. I know that 0 is smaller than a 1 and a 5. Therefore, this will be the smallest, and I'll put a 1 beside it. All right, now I'm going to go back to the ones that had a 0. We already established, well, in the 10th spot, this had a 5. This had a 6. 5 is smaller than 6, so I know that will be my second one from least to greatest. And the next one, we know, well, 1 is bigger than 0, so 0 is smaller. So that's automatically number 3. And finally, the one with the 1 as a whole number, that would be the largest. So from here, we are going to write them in order on the side from least to greatest. The first smallest number we said was 0 and 3 hundredths. The second one we said was 0 and 58 hundredths. The third one was 0 and 6 tenths. And finally, the greatest value is 1 and 120,000. Or if you like to say 1 and 12 hundredths, that also works. And right here, I want you to try. So you have these digits. I want you to write them down on your own and try to do the method of lining up the decimals, adding the zeros to that missing value, and then comparing them from the left to the right, from the highest place value to the lowest. Now, we're going to compare decimals using our greater than or less than sign. These are our inequality symbols, and we use inequality symbols to make a statement true. So it says insert less than or greater than between each pair of numbers to create a true inequality statement. All right? And we're also going to look at place value from left to right to compare. So if I start off my first number, this is 0 and 8 thousandths, and this is 0 and 1 hundredths. So in the one spot, they both have a 0. If we move to the right of the decimal, in the 10th spot, they both have a 0. And if we move one more spot over to the 100th spot, well, this has a 0, and that has a 1. Therefore, 1 is bigger than 0. So the inequality symbol should be facing the largest number. That's an easy way to know. The inequality symbol always faces the largest number. And we will read this as 0 and 8,000 is less than 0 and 100. Now we'll move to the second one. The first place value is in the 1 spot. They both have a 1 in the 1 spot. We move to the right of the decimal. In the 10th spot, they both share a 5. In the 100th spot, they both share a 6. But in the 1,000th spot, the number to the left has a 7. The number to the right has a 5. 7 is bigger than 5. Therefore, the inequality symbol will open up to the left side. And we will read this as 1 and 567,000 is greater than 1 and 565 thousandths. For the last one. All right, the first digit place value we have in the last one is in the 10 spot. They both share a 7. I apologize, a 7. In the second spot, in the 1 spot, they both share a 5. Well, this one doesn't have a value behind the 5. So we can assume that we can add a decimal and add a 0, just like we did in the last one, to make them share the same value. And I'll show you what that will look like. That will actually be a 75.0 if we want to make them have the same decimal digit value. And we can clearly see that a 3 is bigger than a 0. Therefore, my arrow will be facing the right. And when we read it, it says 75 is less than 75 and 3/10. So I hope that helps you with the learning objective of I can compare and order decimals.